So somebody's listening, they've overcome trauma, and they maybe they have fibromyalgia or some other autoimmune or something like that. What are some tips that you can share from your experience that can help them get started on the healing path? Some things that they could implement maybe even today.
Practicing gentle movement and exercise, such as like walking, yoga, tai chi, swimming, anything that can improve flexibility and reduce stiffness and alleviate some of the symptoms.
Welcome, everyone, to Health Coach TV. I'm your host, Dr. Shauna. And man, if you are struggling with fibromyalgia or overcoming an abusive relationship or trauma, man, do we have a show for you. And you are going to want to hear Natalie's story. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, let me give you an introduction. So, Natalie Lynn is a registered radiology and MRI technologist. So, she comes from my background in radiology. She is now focusing, though, on preventative and lifestyle approaches to healthcare. Natalie was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, giving her debilitating pain, migraines, loss of energy, weight gain, and anxiety. And so, as someone who's always been interested in health and living an active life, this was devastating to her and it crushed her. And she became increasingly passionate about taking control of her health. She found a holistic approach led to healing and pursued becoming a certified holistic health coach. And she now helps women with fibromyalgia decrease pain, increase their energy, and lose weight so they can live an active lifestyle and be in healthy relationships with others again. So she lives in beautiful Holland, Michigan, just steps away from the Great Lake, Michigan. So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you.
Well, we are going to have a great episode here. I just know it. You have such a powerful story to share. And I know that there are women out there who are struggling where you once were, where you, with things that you had. So tell us, first off, what is it that you do? And like, how'd you get into this line of work? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, in 2016 and 2017, I was working as an MRI tech, and I was faced with several health challenges, including going through a divorce, having a hysterectomy, followed by a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. I learned I was in so much pain. I was exhausted. I was dealing with some brain fog and drained, and it was just a terrible experience. I had to tough it out and still figure out ways to continue working as an MR tech. But despite some of these obstacles, I persevered and I refused to let some of these circumstances define me. So I dove into what I could help with, like the pain management, so I could keep working. I deeply I dove in deeply with my diet, and I still had to keep moving, and I had to figure this out. I looked at some of my limits and my thresholds of what I could do. And all of these things worked together to help me get onto a healthier path. I then became a health coach because I was always interested in health. And I just had this desire because I wanted to get my energy back. And I wanted to manage the pain so I could function in just everyday life and be able to enjoy some of the things that I used to love to do all the time. But some of those two stories, well, three stories or so, really, in retrospect, was actually building and strengthening myself to what was going to come in the future. And so then in 2002 was marked by profound loss for me. I had mourned the passing of 7 close loved ones. And I found myself also in an abusive relationship that stemmed from mental illness. So I didn't have a great support system around to navigate all of this. The work I had done on myself before that to navigate through some of those health challenges helped me to be really resilient and emerge as like a survivor in all of this. And it just kept propelling me to further to draw on my own experiences of this trauma and healing. And I wanted to be on a mission to help women processing and overcoming the trauma that impacts their relationships, and especially if they're dealing with fibromyalgia or any other stress factors in their life. And so I found like certain communities like this one, the Awaken Healers, and other approaches such as the Love Elevator tool. It helped teach and assist me also in navigating this challenging time that I was going through. So instead of withdrawing and falling into like the old victimhood patterns of loss and fear, and drowning in my own grief, I could come from love and focus forward on helping others in what could be a similar situation, although not everybody's in the same situation.
Right.
So by lifting others up through what I had already gone through, I was able to lift myself up even farther to another level, which did wonders, for my mindfulness as well. My commitment to wanting to live a holistic lifestyle and well-being, that's what led me to be to get certified in gut health. And I recognized that it was such a great connection in between like the mind, the body, and the spirit, and the gut. All of those work together in our health. And there's so many different avenues, in each of those sections that affect our health. And so to bring all of those together was really important for me, and which was why I got certified in that. Today, I stand as a living testimony and empowerment, fully dedicated to guiding women on their journey to health and healing, and having the profound changes that arise when a person harnesses their personal experiences is something that I really enjoy helping with women. So through my coaching program, I not only impart like the practical wisdom and knowledge, but I also extend the empathy and the understanding and a roadmap to proclaiming vitality and resilience and taking control over their lives.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay. So let me just like recap some of that. So many things that you had. So it's kind of like, and over a longer period of time, like a 1-2 punch. There was in 2016, 2017, somewhere in there, like kind of everything kind of imploded. There was the divorce, there's the fibromyalgia. You still got to make a living, you still got to show up for work. And I think a lot of women out there who are struggling in pain and they've got no energy, and they can relate. They're like, how do you do this? And then sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes, you can take that time and you can heal. And then knowing what to do, how do you heal? And that's kind of where I'm going to go next, is like, well, what did you do? But you did get on the other side of it. Somehow, some way, you did find a way to get your energy back, manage that pain, be able to function. And then boom, only to get walloped again with 7, not 1, but 7 losses. That's, you know, really hard. One death is to overcome is a lot, and then just that sheer volume of grief, you just kind of get numb. And it would be very easy for someone to withdraw and go with, just fall into victimhood, really. Like, why me? Why is the world life beating up on me? And just forget it. But because of what you'd overcome already, and you would, they kind of say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You were stronger because of your challenges from before, and then being able to do it. And you had to do it really the hard way, because you didn't have a loving, supportive spouse to kind of help you through your grief or anything like that. And so what I find is the good news, bad news. Bad news, you had to learn it the hard way. the good news is you cracked the code on this in order to survive and get to the other side like you have, and you're successful and you're thriving and you're healthy again. To go from point A to point B, you learn some things and now you can pave the way and make it easier for others. So I think that's just fantastic. And I love that you found assistance, well, in the community of healers that we are among, but also through the love elevator, which I write about in my books. And it really is, I mean, people just share it with their friends and their family and their kids. It is really a great tool to focus forward. Positive come from love rather than fear, and just a simple one. So yeah, it really is helpful. So I'm glad that was a piece of that. So tell us a little bit more about, what was it like, kind of like living with fibromyalgia, but more so like, how'd you overcome it? Like, most people just struggle and live with it, but not, not well. So what did you do? Like, if there's what are some things, how did you get over it?
Well, it started, I had a lot of extreme pain and fatigue, and it was taking over my life, my job, my social life, the things I love to do. I love to bike and hike and run and working out. I lived a very active life.
Mhm.
And I would leave work in just tears because I was just in so much pain and just so exhausted. And I wasn't able to enjoy like my evenings off, because I was too busy trying to recover
Right.
from that day of work. And uh, I never was fully getting a full night's sleep, or, I was always dealing with brain fog and just forgetfulness. And but I came up with five main things that were really able to be very helpful in my path of going through all these different changes, the fibro and the trauma and healing and that. And the first one was like just adopting a holistic approach to health and wellness. That was very, very beneficial. And this included healthy diet, regular exercise, stress management techniques, meditation and yoga, working on getting adequate amounts of sleep. And these lifestyle changes, they really helped alleviate a lot of symptoms,
Mhm.
to help improve my overall health. The pain management, there's so many different techniques and ways for pain management, but I was able to find a certain way to work with mine.
Mhm.
The mind body practices that I took into practice was, things such as mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing, gentle, exercises, some relaxing techniques, and trying to reduce the stress that was in my life.
Right.
I also worked on, gut health, optimizing my gut health through dietary changes, really reducing the inflammatory foods that I was regularly eating at that time. And just trying to create like a tailored plan for myself. And that would also help others because, not everybody goes through the same thing. Not all trauma is the same, and not one plan, fits all.
Right.
Uh, so those are some of the five things.
Mhm. Awesome. That sounds good. Like, it's like um part of the cracking of the code of it was, I think there was like holistic approach, kind of not just doing one, pain management. And I think you said something about mind body, gut health, and then customizing it, personalizing it. So like that kind of that kind of approach is a good place to start. Awesome. So, in doing that for yourself, what kind of things what got better? Tell us a little bit about what got better.
Um, I've got a lot of physical relief in my body.
Mhm.
Being free from the physical pain, it brought like a sense of liberation and renewed energy, so I could go out and do the things that I love to do while losing weight. And which I consider that a huge blessing. And then improved relationships.
Did you
Foster.
have weight to lose when you went into this?
I did. I mean, I was never like overweight,
Yeah.
but there is such a thing as like
The skinny
healthy
obese?
skinny. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Healthy skinny.
Yeah.
So that was something that I needed to work on
Yeah.
just to be healthier. Um,
Mainly around your middle, like bloating, abdominal type of weight, which,
yes, yep, a lot of abdominal, midsection bloating, um, and just that puffiness. You
and
know,
that's the part that's stubborn, when people are trying to lose weight and then they just can't. So that's a huge, bonus benefit. It was mainly you were trying to get rid of the pain, but yeah. And so, yeah, what else did you notice?
improved relationships, just with family and friends, better communication skills, deeper connections, more meaningful interactions with like loved ones and in friendships, really focusing on them and creating a better intimacy with friendships and family members.
Do you think that was because, well, partly the pain relief, when you're in pain, you become really self-absorbed. Like that's kind of all you can think about. But also kind of getting in touch with like some of these other things that you talked about, mindfulness practices like meditation and that kind of getting more like connected and in touch with yourself that allowed you to sort of improve those relationships with others. Like is that kind of why it improved relationships?
Yes, it also brought more like you're more centered.
Yes.
You're more centered. You can focus more. It clears your mind. You didn't have like the fogginess of the brain as much. So you could really, rather than being distracted or forgetful, you could really concentrate on that relationship and what was important on with them.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
I also, there was a lot of emotional freedom as well from just the healing process and trauma. It just, that led to a lot of emotional liberation as well, a sense of relief. It reduced my anxiety. Uh, it lifted some of those emotional burdens that I was carrying, the guilt, the shame from everything that I had gone through. And it helped regulate my emotions.
Mhm.
So I had a stronger sense of myself.
Yeah. 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 I love it. I love it. And so, okay. And so this really has you just have like a whole new, fresh outlook on life. Like you've got your energy back, you're getting whittling your middle and feeling better, more positive, better relationships. So really a 180 from all of the grief and the trauma that you had. So is a lot of the people that I talked to, there was some, dark night of the soul or a few dark nights in your case. And then that once they overcame that, they're like, man, I got to help others. So is that what had you become a health coach? Is that what was the decision to help people with their health?
Yes, I always had been interested in health. Growing up as a child, I was always into playing sports, and
Yeah.
my mom taught nutrition very well. So I was always interested in health. But ultimately, my decision to specialize in coaching for fibromyalgia and trauma survivors, it really stemmed from a combination of like my personal experiences, a desire to really help others. And I had a passion for making a positive difference in other people's lives who are facing similar challenges. And I wanted to take the negative of what I had gone through and change that into a positive for others to really help move forward. And not only does it affect others, but it really changed my life too by doing something for other people. So I went through these things, not having a lot of support, I lost a lot of friendships, and I really found out that there's a real thing called victim shaming out there. I always heard of it, but I didn't realize how prevalent it is in these situations and how hard it is uh, to get through that. That was the hardest part of my healing process, was processing just that alone.
Yeah.
It was a very lonely road when dealing with a spouse who had like a mental illness, and friends and family having a hard time understanding what that really means. And I would never want anyone to experience that or feel like they're alone, or that they did something wrong, or they have like no support in the situation. So I felt like my unique perspective and empathy and determination to empower others was really uh, invaluable in guiding individuals toward healing, improved health, such as decreasing, like their physical and their emotional pain, increasing their energy, while helping them lose weight like I did, and actually, be in healthy relationships with others.
Yeah. You mentioned victim shaming, and I haven't really, in the interviews I've done, I haven't really come across that, but I can absolutely now, and I think of other friends and people that I know that have gone through some of these things, and I would say, and even a doctor that I know with fibromyalgia, somebody else that I know going through an abusive relationship, was in a relationship with a narcissist and so on. Um, Absolutely a prevalent thing, and I do know that part of the thing is just trying to scream without a voice, trying to be heard, because and you said that was the hardest part, and I mean, I get that. I can understand why that would be the case, because you know so there's one doctor in particular. She had fibromyalgia herself, and that was a blessing, because she had all of the patients who had fibromyalgia, because everybody just dumped them. At best, they dumped them on her, but at worst, like, mainly they were dismissed. Yeah, nothing wrong. So you should be able, no, we don't see anything here. And the crazy thing is, as in ultrasound radiology, I actually at one point saw findings. There is no imaging findings that people know of, but I actually could see findings in the soft tissue. That's how she and I connected, because I was asked to do, the people didn't tell me that this person had fibromyalgia, and people are told, it doesn't count for anything, and it sure as heck does. It destroys their life. So I had this patient, and they were asking me to scan their arm because it was sore, and they said, which is not really like a thing you do unless it's for rotator cuff, but they're like, is there a lipoma there? Which didn't even really make sense. So it was unusual for me to be scanning it in the first place. And in the soft tissues, I could see an increased echogenicity, a whiteness there. And I had done a lot of breast ultrasound. That was, my field. And so it looked like what a bruise would look like, on that. But there was no bruise. There was no, and I'm like, this is interesting. I said, it looks like there's like and it was faint. It was subtle. It wasn't obvious, but that's all I did day in, day out for years, was ultrasound soft tissue, so that it would be easy to say there's no lump there next. Like, that would be normally what would be done in a busy department. But I was curious, and I said, it almost looks like this is more diffuse. Like, it's ever, I said, do you have any other places that have pain? He had lots of pain everywhere, but he's only allowed to come with one entrance complaint, right? Like, don't say scan my whole body. So he picked one, right? I'm going on his back, I'm seeing more of it. So he happened to have this doctor as his doctor, and I reached out, and then so I'm like, hey, next time you have a thyroid or a gallbladder that you need scanned, tag me in it, and I'm going to just, I don't know, I'm just going to, and I was seeing things in the soft tissue. So it was really interesting. But, and through that, I got to meet a lot of, fortunately, I've never had fibromyalgia, but I got to meet a lot of people who had this. And really, And this doctor taught me about it being really a lot related to unresolved trauma, like a previous infection or an emotional or, a car accident. And when you asked in their history, people had that. And so I was kind of fascinated, and then just felt, lots of compassion for these people. But really, I didn't have the tools to be able to say, other than to say, yep, there's something there, which was helpful, but that doesn't really help them have the pain. So I'm so glad you took it to that next level of like, no, you can do things to get on the other side of this. There are things that you can do to heal your body. There are things that you can address and get right to the root cause of it. So how do you work with people? How, when somebody's coming, how does that work? How do you help them?
Well, most of my clients are women who are suffering with pain emotionally and physically. A lot of them have like low energy and they want to lose weight is when they come to me. So I walk them step by step through like a process with them very closely. And we cover like the 5 things I mentioned earlier, like the holistic lifestyle change, using pain management techniques, the mind body practices, and addressing their gut health and nutrition, and also creating an individualized plan because everyone's unique and their challenges and circumstances are unique. And we work mainly together virtually, so it's easy for anyone and anywhere. I've worked with people all over the US, so I love that I can help women in this deep level this way. So we try to make it as easy as we can, and connecting throughout all over.
And that's really helpful too, because that's part of the problem. They don't have the energy. If they could get out of bed, if they could move, if they could get through their day, if they weren't going to be exhausted after 5 minutes, if that would make it easier. So I love that you make it easy for people who are having a hard time getting help with their health. So, again, thanks for you, because there's not a lot of people who are helping women in this area. So if you know something, being willing to share it and pass it along is huge. Next question is something that I really, when I'm speaking to experts, I really like to get their insights. So somebody who's been there, done that. So like, as someone like yourself who's overcome trauma and grief and navigating fibromyalgia, what do you think is the biggest myth people have when it comes to overcoming trauma, addressing that, and the impact it has on their health, like fibromyalgia? What's the biggest myth?
I believe the biggest myth is there's a one size fits all approach. And we hear that all the time, commercials and TV and, try this, try that. But that misconception is assuming that a single approach or solution works universally for these individuals with fibromyalgia or anyone who's dealt with any type of trauma. But again, each person's experience is unique and their thresholds and triggers and needs are unique.
Yeah.
So what works for one person may not work for another, including like nutrition. It's important to tailor, their guidance to suit their individual needs.
Mhm.
Even in my own experience, like the loss of 7 loved ones, that was way different than the abusive relationship that I was going through, which was different than, the pain and the fatigue that I had from fibromyalgia.
Mm.
And I still had to work as an MR tech through all of these things.
Right.
Yeah. So, however, overcoming like each one of these challenges, it did lead to increased strength and resilience, going forward. But each of those, they required a unique approach because everyone's threshold is different and different on different things at different times. And some people can clean a whole house, in one day. For myself, if I were to clean the whole house in one day, I would be out,
Mhm.
but then some people can. if some people can do a 5-minute walk and it also puts them out for the day, and some people are like 5 minutes a day, that's no big deal. So everybody's threshold and trigger is very unique to them and what they've gone through.
Yeah, yeah, really good. I know you talk a lot about everybody's different and unique thresholds, and I hear that word from you a lot about the threshold. So and the way I talk about it is, the way I find my limit is after I've already passed it. I'm like, oh, there's my limit. I know my limit by going beyond it. But it was with somebody like, now I'll bounce back. I'm a rubber ball, I'll bounce back. But somebody with fibromyalgia, they don't have that bounce ability, like somebody who doesn't have fibromyalgia or who hasn't had maybe as much trauma. And so it's really important to take that customized approach and really like listen to that unique person. So excellent. Why is customizing your approach? You talk a lot about that. Why is that important?
Because each person is different. They have a different set of circumstances, health conditions, preferences, even goals. Some might be they just, are diagnosed with, diabetes and they need to work on that. And then some people might just want to lose weight, or maybe some people have like a goal of running a marathon someday.
Mhm.
So their goals are always a little bit different when they come to see me. A personalized approach is even more effective in achieving like long-term results, I found.
Yeah.
Acknowledging also that everyone is different and promotes inclusivity and respects diversity. That's really important. I like to consider factors such as like their cultural background, personal beliefs, social economic status. Some people can afford all organic foods and then others can't, so we need to come up with an approach that works for them. Individual challenges when developing a coaching plan should encompass all of those thoughts. Individuals also, they evolve over time. So do their needs and preferences, such as like perimenopause and menopause.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, things change. Yeah, at different times it's different. So yeah, no, that makes total sense. What are some, so somebody's listening, they've overcome trauma and they maybe they have fibromyalgia or some other autoimmune or something like that. What are some tips that you can share from your experience that can help them get started on the healing path? Some things that they could implement maybe even today.
um, I found practicing gentle movement and exercise, such as like walking, yoga, tai chi, swimming, anything that can improve flexibility and reduce stiffness and alleviate some of the symptoms. Also, stress management, self-care. Stress can exacerbate both fibromyalgia symptoms and trauma-related issues. So prioritizing, like the stress management techniques, such as like breathing exercises, meditations, mindfulness practices, along with some self-care, activities that, bring relaxation and comfort, such
Yeah.
as like warm baths, practicing hobbies, spending time in nature, engaging, in creative pursuits that they enjoy that will bring stress relief for them.
Yeah, yeah. So good. I think sometimes some of these things like this, like all of those self-care, stress management things that you talked about, and like the gentle movement, which is important. I think that was one thing that I took away from this doctor, in Canada that, was helping people years ago that I connected with. She talked about just that gentle approach and the extended length of recovery. So some of these things, people have heard of before. And I think they really fall under like that easy to do, easy not to do. It's kind of like drinking water. Like I always say, drink water, but but lots of us are not. And so it's, gentle movement or, doing some of these things. So it's easy to do, but then we're often not. And I think that's where someone like yourself comes in, and it's hard to when you are victimized by a health condition or from trauma. So, and you don't feel worthy of self-care, that adds the layers. So it's easy to say that. And somebody who's healthy, you're like, yeah, just do yoga, no big deal. But for someone going through this, the hand holding, the support, the accountability makes all the difference in the world. So, thank you for doing again the work that you do, because it is giving people that hand holding that they need, and then going deeper, not superficial level, just going into that root cause. So the other thing that I always know is when you help someone with one thing, like lots of things get better. And I love the stories about things that, you're helping someone with this, and then there's like, oh, that got better as well. So, what are some of the spin-off benefits that you've seen, either helping women with fibromyalgia or the weight loss or healing from trauma? What have you seen with people that you've worked with?
For instance, I worked with this lady. I was working with her, but her husband had a family member with mental illness, and it added a lot of stress to their marriage, their family. Things were strained.
Mhm.
But she wanted to focus on herself. So she started getting healthy. And then her husband, started going on walks with her because, he saw what she was doing. And then they started eating healthier foods together because, they
Cooking
were in the
time,
kitchen and
sometimes.
cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so they both started losing weight. And then they started like prioritizing, their marriage from this healthier, more energized place. They were able to uh, approach and work with this family member with like more compassion and love. And there was less stress going on and divisiveness within the family. So they were a united front after a while, and it didn't impact their marriage like it used to. So the outcome for that is the marriage was a lot better in the end. Even though I wasn't working with the husband, I was just working with her. The
Yeah.
spinoff was a better marriage. Now they're sleeping better. There's no bloating. The stress level is all around healthier and happier.
Awesome. And probably that the extended family member with a mental health issue, um, that won't be aggravated. Like a lot of times there's an issue there. And then as, as a married couple, it's like, well, that's your family member. You deal with it. Or why are you dealing with that? I need you and stuff like that. And so then there's like it just gets prickly and worse. So in this case, like, when they're healthier, you can see clearly, you can see things from a better perspective. And yeah, the ripple effect. I love the ripple effect. Yeah. Anyone else you want care to share about?
I had many clients that have been addicted to fast food, and that has such a hold on a lot of women's lives. This one, for instance, was living a separate life from their spouse. Uh, in particular, she went and got out a secret credit card, and she'd go through the drive-through and she'd binge eat, and then she would get rid of all the evidence and, get rid of the wrappers and hide the card. And when she came to me, the guilt and the stress and the lying and the hiding it was overwhelming. And not to mention, the calories and the inflammation and the bloating and the gut health that put so much stress on them. She became suicidal at one point and diabetic, and along with some other autoimmune disease that she was on the borderline of having. And it just was overwhelming for her. We were able to get down to the root cause and address the triggers that she was having, and she saw major breakthroughs. And now, years later, her and her husband, they have a healthy, excellent relationship. But the real spinoff and the benefit of this was, not only her health and her marriage was better, but this woman had a friend who was addicted to fast food and kind of suffering some of the same health challenges as herself. And my client was able to share with her friend what she had learned from working with me together. And the spin-off benefit is her friend was also able to overcome her fast food addiction. And there's nothing more satisfying than to see more and more people, get healthy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Like the spin off there, not only did it improve her health, which was pretty dire when you started to work with her, the spin off benefit, come clean with her diet, come clean with her husband, and improve that. But then she was able to take what you had learned, really ingrain it so much so that it was sustainable, so that these results were lasting. So it was like things that she could continue to do. It wasn't like she worked with you, she was good for 3 months or so, and then as soon as she stopped, she unraveled. No, years later, she's good to the extent that she can now help others. And what a ripple effect of paying it forward and helping others is so fantastic, Natalie. Like that's just really, that must feel really, really good to know that you've had that impact, and good for you for shining your light and showing up, and just appreciate the work that you do. If people are out there like, hey, I kind of want to just talk to Natalie by myself, I want to talk to her, I have some questions, or like I'm not sure if she'd be able to help me with this thing because I don't know, she said about all those unique things, I don't know about this unique thing. How can people best get in touch with you?
They can find me online, natalielynnfit.com, and it's NATALIELYNNFIT. And I'm on Facebook as well. So Natalie Lynn Fit.
Awesome. Well, that's good. So Natalie Lynn Fit, if you are looking for just to chat with you and just to get your perspective, or just to have someone who understands where you're coming from. I know that you're willing to do that because one of the things that people don't have is a support system, and nobody believes in them, and they victim shame and all of those kind of things. So even just to have, and I think you even have a starter kit on your site as well. So if people just want to check that out, that's a free thing that they can, start there. So thank you so much for coming and sharing what you do and helping out and sharing your light and love out into the world. So thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Well, that's it for this episode of Health Coach TV. If you like, please like and subscribe, and we will be sharing more episodes of Health Coach TV. If you have a topic that you would like to know about, pop it in the chat. We're always open to interviewing experts in all of these different fields. And with that, have a fantastic week. And of course, be good for you.